All right, let's dive into a story about what happens when good intentions go horribly, horribly wrong, and the blame game begins.
You know how it goes, right? When everything falls apart, when a whole society just collapses into ash, the first thing people do is look for someone to blame.
And right on cue, we get our first denial. This comes from Advisor Diesel. He's the highest-ranking official who made it out alive. But, just because you survived the fire doesn't mean you didn't help light the match.
So, let's dig into his story. What does the lone survivor, the man at the center of this whole mess, have to say for himself?
Okay, so listen to how Diesel frames this. He's basically saying, hey, our plan was all about peace and freedom. He paints this picture of them as reformers, maybe even visionaries. They were expecting parades, not riots.
But yeah, just look at the difference between the plan and what actually happened. They wanted celebrations. What they got was riots, funerals, and an army of monsters. That massive gap between the dream and the nightmare, that's where this whole story gets really interesting.
So that really begs the question, doesn't it? If the advisors swear this wasn't their goal, then what, or who, was powerful enough to hijack their plan and turn it into a total catastrophe?
All right, let's bring in our next witness. This is a royal guard named Rev, and his testimony is going to change everything. He starts talking about something else, not a person, but a force. And he gives it a name, the shadow self. Now get this, it's not some demon from the outside. It's the darkness we all have inside of us. That part you push down, the fear, the anger, the raw instinct. And it comes roaring to the surface the second the rules are gone.
So Rev's argument is that when the advisors got rid of all the laws, they weren't just creating freedom, they were practically rolling out the red carpet for this inner darkness. And the people? Well, they were so desperate they welcomed it in like it was some kind of hero.
And that's what was so terrifying. It wasn't just about the chaos outside in the streets. It was about looking in the mirror and not recognizing the person staring back. The real horror was realizing the monster wasn't out there, it was inside you all along. Then the guard drops this bombshell. He basically says, this isn't just their story. We all have this shadow, even you. And whoa, suddenly, this isn't about some far-off kingdom. It's a warning for all of us, suggesting this darkness is just waiting.
Okay, so now that we understand this whole shadow self idea, let's go back to Advisor Diesel, because his testimony is about to get a whole lot darker.
And boom, there it is, the confession. But pay close attention to his words. He doesn't say, I killed them. He says he watched himself do it, like he was just a passenger in his own body. His fear got so twisted that his shadow just took the wheel and drove him to murder the king and queen. And he even had the nerve to call it self-defense.
The crowd, naturally, isn't buying any of this complex psychological stuff. They just hear, he killed the king. They want a simple answer, a single villain. And crucifying one guy is a lot easier than admitting everyone might have played a part, right? It's a simple story, easy to swallow.
But just when you think it's case closed, it's not. The crowd is screaming for blood, but then something else starts talking. And it's coming from Diesel's mouth.
It's like the man himself takes a back seat, and the shadow, this thing inside him, steps up to the mic. Suddenly, this isn't a trial for Advisor Diesel anymore. It's a trial for the entity that says it's behind the whole mess.
And this thing just lays out its entire playbook. This wasn't some quick possession. Nope. It was a slow burn. Years of whispering doubts, feeding fears. It taught Diesel how to lie to himself, how to see rebellion as this noble, holy crusade. The key takeaway here is pretty chilling. The shadow didn't break down the door. Diesel handed it the keys.
And you hear zero remorse in its voice. None. Just pride. It's actually boasting. It sees the fall of the kingdom as its greatest work of art, and there's no way it's going to let some human take the credit for it. Okay, here we go. The final act. The new king, Prince Evan, steps up to face this thing head-on. But this confrontation, it's gonna drag everyone into the spotlight.
Evan does not hold back. He calls the shadow a parasite, a coward, just an ugly stain with no mind of its own that feeds on other people's fear. He's trying to cut it down to size, call it weak and insignificant.
But the shadow's comeback is brutal. It doesn't even bother arguing. It just holds up a mirror. It's like, okay, my guy Diesel killed 2 people in a panic. You, Prince Evan,
You killed all the advisors and their innocent families, in cold blood, for revenge? Oof. All of a sudden, you have to ask, who's the real monster here?
And it's not done yet. It turns its attention from the prince to the entire crowd. It tells them, your anger, your rage that you keep all locked up, that's my fuel. I don't make you do anything. I just light the match, and you're the ones who burn everything to the ground.
And here's its final mic drop. It lays out this whole vicious cycle. You stuff down your anger, you wait for someone else to fix your problems, and when they don't, you explode. You call your violence justice, but all it does is leave you with more guilt, which you stuff down, and the whole ugly thing just starts over.
And that's the final note. The shadow's last question just hangs in the air. It's asking the prince, it's asking the crowd, and really it's asking you. You think you're any better? In the end, the hunt for one single bad guy leads to this really uncomfortable idea. Maybe the darkness isn't in one person. Maybe it's in all of us. And you're left wondering, what do you do with a truth like that?